Hello all. Today we can see the first chapter of English for 10th standard CBSE syllabus. Okay, the chapter is A Letter to God. So we can start learning now. The house, the only one in the entire valley, sat on the crest of a low hill. So it's saying that there was only one house in the entire valley, and that house was located on top of the hill. The hill was not a very big one, it is a low hill. From this height, one could see the river and the field of ripe corn dotted with the flowers that always promised a good harvest. So, from the top of the mountain where the house is, so from that house, when they see, or from when they look from that height, what can they see? They can see the river and the field. Okay, the field has ripe corn, and there are flowers. Okay, there are flowers in the field, which promises a good harvest, which means there is going to be a good harvest. The only thing the earth needed was a downpour or at least a shower. So there was not enough rain earlier. So what the earth needed was a downpour. Downpour means a heavy rain, or at least a shower means if not a heavy rain, at least a light rain should be there. Throughout the morning, Lencho, who knew his fields intimately, had done nothing else but see the sky towards the northeast. So Lencho was the main character of this story. So, who knew his field intimately means who knew his field very deeply, who was so much attached to his field. So, what did he do through the day? He was doing nothing else, but he was looking at the sky towards northeast. Now we are really going to get some water, woman. He is telling to his wife that they are going to get some water, which means it's going to rain. The woman who was preparing supper replied, "Yes, God willing." So his wife was preparing dinner, and while preparing dinner, she is replying to her husband, "Yes, they will get rain, God willing." The older boys were working in the field, while the smaller ones were playing near the house until the woman called to them. So what were the boys doing? The older boys, they were working in the field, okay, whereas the smaller boys were playing. "Come for dinner." It was during the meal that, just as Lencho had predicted, big drops of rain began to fall. So they were having their dinner, and at that time it began to rain. Okay, like Lencho had predicted. In the northeast, huge mountains of clouds could be seen approaching. The air was fresh and sweet. The man went out for no other reason than to have the pleasure of feeling the rain on his body, and when he returned, he exclaimed, "These aren't raindrops falling from the sky. They are new coins. The big drops are 10-cent pieces and the little ones are 5." So while they were having dinner, it rained. It was a heavy rain, like big drops of rain began falling. They could see that clouds were approaching. So Lencho went out to stand in the rain so that he could feel the rain. Okay, the pleasure of feeling the rain on his body. So after coming back from the field, he is telling that these aren't raindrops falling from the sky. He is telling that what is falling from the sky is not raindrops. He is telling that they are coins, they are new coins, which means that the rain promises that the harvest would be good because there was not enough water earlier. So now as it is raining, he gets a hope that it would benefit the field. The big drops are 10-cent pieces. So he compares the big drops to 10-cent pieces, means coin, 10 cents coins. And the little ones are 5s. With a satisfied expression, he regarded the field of ripe corn with its flowers draped in a curtain of rain. So with a satisfied expression, he is looking at the field and he feels that they are draped in a curtain of rain. The corn with its flowers are draped in a curtain of rain. Draped means cover. So like draped in a sari means covered in a sari. So like that he feels that the corn with its flowers are draped in rain, are covered with rain. But suddenly a strong wind began to blow, and along with the rain, very large hailstones began to fall. But then what happened? Suddenly a strong wind blew, and then hailstones began to fall. Hailstones means balls of ice. When it rains heavily, sometimes we get to see hailstones. So now the rain had changed. Strong winds blew, and then hailstones began to fall. These truly did resemble new silver coins. The hailstones resemble means look like. So they look like new silver coins. The boys, exposing themselves to the rain, ran out to collect the frozen pearls. The boys, they went out to collect these frozen pearls. The hailstones are compared to frozen pearls here. It's really getting bad now, exclaimed the man. I hope it passes quickly. The rain began to be very atrocious. It was a atrocious rain. He feels bad and then he wishes that the rain would stop immediately. It did not pass quickly. For an hour, the rain rained on the house, the garden, the hillside, the cornfield, and on the whole valley. But the rain did not stop immediately. It rained for almost an hour. The field was white, as if covered with salt. So the field was looking white because the hailstones had fallen. And as a result, the field looked white, as if it was covered with salt. Looked like the field was covered in salt. Not a leaf remained on the trees. The corn was totally destroyed. The flowers were gone from the plant. Okay? And then what happened to the corn? They were also destroyed. The flowers were gone from the plants. Lencho's soul was filled with sadness. So earlier we can see that Lencho sees all those flowers, okay? All those flowers on the plants. But now those flowers had also fallen off due to this heavy hailstone. Lencho's soul was filled with sadness. Lencho felt sad due to this. When the storm had passed, he stood in the middle of the field and said to his sons, a plague of locusts would have left more than this. The hail has left nothing. This year we will have no corn. So, at last he stands in the middle of the field. When the storm had passed, the storm had stopped now, and then he stands in the middle of the field. He was very much sad and he says, a plague of locusts. Locusts means insects, like insect pests which can be seen feeding on the crops. So he says that if the crops would have been attacked by pests, that would have left some of the crops. Even they would have spared few crops, but the hailstorm was not like that. It had destroyed everything and there was nothing that was left. And he says that this year they will have no corn. That night was a sorrowful one. All our work for nothing. There is no one who can help us. We'll all go hungry this year. So he says that that night was a sorrowful one. That night was filled with sorrow. All our work for nothing, which means all the hard work that they had done was of a waste now. There was no use for it. There is no one who can help us, because earlier it said that there was only one house in that area. So there is nobody who can come to help them. We'll all go hungry this year. That year they'll be hungry because they were thinking that they would get a good harvest. The crops were in good condition. Due to the hailstones, what happened? All the crops were destroyed. As a result, he says that without money, they would all be hungry this year, because he has to sell the corn and then he would get money. With this money, he had to survive throughout the year. But in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house in the middle of the valley, there was a single hope, help from God. But then everybody means Lencho and his family, they had one hope that was remaining. That is the help from God. They believed that God would help them. Don't be so upset. Even though this seems like a total loss, remember, no one dies of hunger. So all of them are sad. So they are telling, don't be sad. Even though this seems like a total loss, even though it is a total loss for them, nobody will die of hunger. That's what they say. No one dies of hunger. All through the night, Lencho thought only of his one hope, the help of God, whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. Lencho was an ox of a man. So, throughout the night, he believed that God would help. He was taught that God would see everything, even what was deep in one's mind would also be seen by God, and hence God would definitely help him. That was what he thought. Lencho was an ox of a man, working like an animal in the fields, but still he knew how to write. Lencho was an ox of a man means he was such a hard-working man. He was working in the farm, like he was so much hard-working. But he knew how to write. The following Sunday, at daybreak, he began to write a letter which he himself would carry to town and place in the mail. It was nothing less than a letter to God. The coming Sunday, what he did was to write a letter at daybreak. Daybreak means early morning when the sun begins to rise. So at that time he started writing a letter, and this letter was to whom? It was to God. So here we can see few questions. What did Lencho hope for? So he hoped for a good rain so that his crops would grow well and that the harvest would be a good one. Why did Lencho say the drops were like new coins? Lencho says that the raindrops were like new coins because there was lack of water. That is what we can understand. And the earth really needed water because it had to rain really well. Only then the crops could grow. So if he had a good harvest, from that he could make money. So that is why he says that the raindrops were like new coins. How did the rain change? So the rain had changed to hailstones. Okay, there was a heavy wind that blew, and then the rain changed to hailstones. What happened to Lencho's fields? So we knew that Lencho's fields had been destroyed, all his crops were destroyed, the flowers had fallen off. What were Lencho's feelings when the hail had stopped? So Lencho, he was filled with grief in his heart when the hail had stopped, because the hail had left none of his crops. All his crops were destroyed. The flowers had gone off, and hence he also felt that the future of his family would be at stake because he would not get enough money from these crops. So now we have seen till the half portion of this chapter. So now the remaining portion can be seen in the next part. Thank you.